Hi and welcome to my booktube channel. My name is Sam and today we are on the 4th best and worst books of the year video, which is kind of crazy to me, probably not to you, but it's crazy to me because why have I done so many of these? But essentially in this video I'm going to be talking about my 5 best books of this year. I say meaning 2024, and my 5 worst books of that year. And I know it's February, I'm a little bit behind, so give me a little bit of apology there, but I am wearing the Snoopy shirt that we got last year, so there is a bit of consistency here. Not like there's much of that in anywhere else on my channel. But yeah, today's video I'm going to talk about my 5 best books and my 5 worst books. It was kind of hard for 2024. I don't think I had as a successful year as I have previously because I really struggled to pick 5 books as my favorites. Like there was 1 or 2 where I was definitely like, yeah, I want to include this in my video. But then for like the last 3 slots of that top 5, I was kind of like, I was struggling. Like I enjoyed a lot of books, but none of them were like standout favorites. So I was kind of like, it was kind of like choosing out of a barrel of like books you liked. I was like, I could include this one or I could include this one. It doesn't really make a difference. I like them both the same. So that's kind of sad to reflect on that and to see that, oh, I didn't have as many like shining star books as I have in previous videos. But yeah, I think I chose a nice selection and definitely all of them I would recommend. So stick around for that. And then similar issues with the worst books of the year, but the top 3 I do vehemently, I don't know why I chose to use that word when I can't even freaking say it, vehemently, you know what I'm trying to say. The top 3 books are definitely ones that I feel very strong hate towards because they were really disappointing or they were just terribly written. And yeah, so at least with the worst books I have some passion of hate. But yeah, anyway, so I think I'm going to do a little bit of a switch around this year. Normally I go from my 5 worst books to my 5 best books, but I think in this video I'm going to start with some positive vibes and we're going to start with my 5 favourite books and my 5 worst books are going to be after that. So stick around. Let's talk about some books. This one will hopefully be a quicker video than my previous 3 videos, which have all been over an hour long. I really need to learn to like shut my trap because I yap too much. But yeah, let's get into my 5 best books of 2024. Leave a like, comment and subscribe on this video. Leave some support, share it with some friends. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, let's say goodbye to 2024 and talk about some of these books. Let's go. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to start obviously with my 5 best books this year and I'm going to work my way up from number 5 and go up to number 1. So my least favourite of the books that I liked to the most favourite book that I liked, and gradually build our way up, okay? But I do have 1 runner-up that I wanted to include because it was, I didn't know whether I was going to include this one or the number 5 on the list, but that is going to be In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. Now this is a gay male romance between 2 guys set during World War I. It's so tragic, it's so sad, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed their pain and suffering because I am a terrible person, but this was just really good and I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Like it felt very much more like a literary fiction kind of book, so I didn't think I was going to like it as much, but once I got into it I really enjoyed it. There were some really tragic moments in here, especially when the 2 characters were separated at a certain point in the book and you kind of saw where each character was going and the different traumas they were going through, and it was just so heartbreaking, as I think you would expect with it being set in a world war, and to know that they're just gonna have to, like, there's gonna be another world war in their future, it's just very tragic. Maybe there'll be a sequel. But yeah, In Memoriam is my runner-up. I really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend it. Be careful though, because it is very sad, so if you're in a temperamental state of mind, maybe give this one a pass and read something more fluffy and happy, okay? But yeah, In Memoriam, really good book. I really enjoyed this one. And then my number 5, my least favourite of my favourite books this year is going to go to one that I have a video coming up in 2025. I have a video on this series coming up in 2025, I should have said, but that is going to be Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve. Now this has been a book that has been sat on my shelf for a very long time and I finally got around to it and I regret not reading it sooner because I thoroughly enjoyed this world. So this basically takes place in kind of a steampunky future. There was a 60-minute war that wiped out all of humanity, well, most of humanity, and what is left live on these kind of traction cities, which is basically they've built up cities on giant kind of wheels, and they go around the wasteland eating up smaller villages and towns and getting bigger and bigger and conglomerating everything together. And it was just such like, it's such a crazy concept, but it was actually so interesting, and I really enjoyed the world building we got in this one. I'm like halfway through the second one, and it's a little bit like annoying character wise, but the world building is again really strong in that one as well. So I think Philip Reeve has done a brilliant like job in creating such an expansive and succinct and interesting world. Like, I'm fascinated by learning about all these different cities, and like in the second book at the minute there's one we see Wolverhampshire, but it's now like Wolverine Hampshire, I think they changed the name. And there's Anchorage, which I only know because it was in the Fallout games. And just seeing all these kind of familiar names alongside the new names, and seeing what survived of the old world and what didn't, and just the state of mind a lot of people are in. Like, it's just so enthralling. It's such a good world, and I think that's what pushed it onto this list, was the world building alone. Not to say that the characters aren't interesting. Their characters are very interesting, more so in this book than the sequel. I have complaints. That's for the next video. So yeah, number 5 on my list is Mortal Engines by Philip Reeve. Definitely recommend giving this a go. Keep an eye out for my video on this series coming up soon. I say soon, I'm only on book 2 and there's like 7 of them, so yeah. Anyway, my number 4 on my list is one that Elizabeth is going to be very happy to see on this. This is Elizabeth from Museum Got Reads on YouTube and Instagram. We do like a buddy read of science books of sci-fi books every month with Emily, also from My Creative Bookshelf, and this is one that we read as a group, but this is one that Elizabeth kind of pushed me towards, and that is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by the infamous Becky Chambers, who you may also know for the Monk and the Robot series. I think the books are called A Psalm for the Wild Bird, and I really don't remember what the second one's called. That's her other series. And she is very good at creating cozy sci-fis. So this one takes a look at a space crew of various different species within this. We've got reptilian creature. We've got like fuzzy, weird hive mind creature things that I think Elizabeth named her cat after Ohan. We've got humans, and we've got a whole like array of different species and different characters, and the book slowly follows a journey on one of their missions that they're doing, and we just see all these kind of like interactions between them and how they find their way through this universe. I've tried not to give too much away, because it is one of those books where if you say too much it kind of ruins the magic, because plot wise not a lot happens, it's more about the characters, so I don't want to say too much. And yeah, it was just so cozy. It was so good. I definitely recommend this one. I really liked it. I'm trying to think what else I can say. I don't want to say too much. I loved the world for this one. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there, but this is my number 4 on my list, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep saying it. I recommend it. It's so good, especially if you like sci-fi, or you just wanting to get into sci-fi, you like dipping your toes into the sci-fi world. I definitely recommend starting with this one, because it's not like a giant space opera. It's more kind of just like a, hey, these are the side quests these characters are doing. They're on this planet now doing this. Oh, now they're pit stopping buying this in this market, and it's very easy to kind of get into, and very fun and very worldly and very lively is the word I meant to say there. But yeah, Becky Chambers, fantastic. I've read all of this series, and I've read her Psalm for the Wild Bird. She was a brilliant writer. I did plan on having a dedicated video to this one, but I kind of left it too long, and now I'm like, it'll be weird to talk about these books when it's been like over a year since I read them, so maybe I'll have to read them again. I don't know, but yeah, maybe I'll do a video on these. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's in this one and I recommend it. So number 3 on my list is actually a single volume of like a series that I wanted to include, but I didn't really want to hold up an entire series. But it's a manga, and it's one of the first manga that I've read where I've had the start and end of the series, because often the manga that I read is ongoing. So we've got like Kaiju number 8, Spy Family, The Summer Hiraku Dai, My Hero Academia, which I know is finished now, but like I kind of gave up with it because it just went on for so long. And Tokyo Ghoul, although I think that's done as well. I didn't finish it. But anyway, this one, my number 3 on my list is the Alice in Borderlands manga. This is volume 9, which is the last and final one, which I decided to hold up because it had such a fun, satisfying end. I found it very satisfying and wholesome. I never really interact with the fandom of this, besides something I'm going to go on a tangent on in a second. But I never really interact with the fandom, so I don't know if the ending's popular, because it is one of those that I feel like people are either going to love or hate. But I liked it. I found the ending very satisfying, and I thought the explanation was very well. I liked there was a moment where one of the characters that they're fighting is kind of hypothesizing all different kind of reasons behind what the Borderlands is. So basically, sorry, before it might sound confused, basically in this manga series, it's kind of a Hunger Games meets Squid Games kind of situation, where a bunch of people within Tokyo look up at the sky one day and they see kind of weird fireworks, and then all of a sudden they're transported to an alternate Tokyo that's completely empty other than these other people that saw the fireworks, and they have to compete in different kind of life or death games to get cards from like a deck of cards. And once they have a full set, who knows what happens? Do they go home? Do they win? Like, what happens when they have a whole set cards? So they're doing all these different kind of games that all correspond to a card. So you'll have like the 9 of hearts or the 1 of spades and that kind of thing. And yeah, essentially that's the plot of this manga. And yeah, I really like that we got that kind of ending that we did, but we also kind of got like oh, this could have also been the ending, but it's not. But this is what it could be. I really liked that. I really enjoyed a lot of the characters. Sorry, I feel like there's a lot of headroom in the video But yeah, I really, really liked this manga, and I'm so glad that I was able to read it as it came out. And I like that it didn't take like years for each volume to come out. It was like a volume every couple of months, which was really cool. But yeah, I don't know how much more I can gush about this series. I definitely recommend this if you're into manga or you're wanting to get into manga. It's a lot of fun, especially if you like the Hunger Games. And my little tangent that I wanted to go on was, ever since Squid Game season 2 came out, I really enjoyed Squid Game season 2, but all I've seen is people comparing it to the adaptation for Alice in Borderlands and being like, well, Squid Game's not as good as Alice in Borderlands. Alice in Borderlands has more deadly games. It's more fun and interesting and scary. And I'm like, why are we comparing them? Why can't we just enjoy both of them? Like, Squid Games is really good. Alice in Borderlands is really good. I can't speak for the show, actually, because I did try and watch the show, but I couldn't really get into it because I'd already read the manga, and I really enjoyed the manga so much that I was like, I don't really want to see the adaptation. And also, like, apparently, like, the season 2 covers everything in the manga. Like, that's where the manga ends, and now there's the season 3, so I'm like, what's going on? Because the ending's not something where I could see them continuing. But yeah, I just, my little tangent is, I just really didn't like seeing people compare the two. Like, why can't we not just enjoy them both? Like, okay, and they're not that similar other than death games, okay? But yeah, anyway, definitely recommend Alice in Borderlands. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, check it out. Okay, and then my second, I nearly held up 3. My second favourite book of 2024 was by the author that started the sci-fi journey that I went on during 2024, which is Miss J.S. Dews. Now, this is her book Rubicon, which is a military sci-fi. It follows... I don't really know how to, like, sum up Rubicon. Like, I really don't know how to sum it up. There's AI involved. There's, like, aliens. There's kind of, like, do you know the thing, like, in The Day After... What was it? No, it wasn't The Day After... Like, Life Over Death, or whatever that manga's called, and then the film adaptation with Tom Cruise. The one where, like, if you die, you just wake up in a new body. Or like your body's been regenerated. That kind of concept. I don't know how to describe this book, but there's AI, and there's that kind of like dying and coming back kind of scenario. There's like an evil genius. There's sentient alien creatures. It's just a lot of fun. And if you said the words to me, military sci-fi, a couple of years ago, I would have been like, no, I'm not reading that. But like, I enjoyed this. So maybe military sci-fis aren't as bad as I would have thought. But yeah, I really like this one. You can see more of my thoughts in this in my Can I Finish a Readathon in a Week video, which I posted a while ago. I think it was back in May. I talked about that in there, so I'm not going to talk too much here. But yeah, I really enjoyed Rubicon. J.S. Dews was the author that started my sci-fi journey and the Divided by 3 buddy reads that I do with Emily and Elizabeth each month, because we were going to read the second book in the Divide series, it's right there, The Exiled Fleet, and I had to read The Last Watch to catch up. And we read that together, we really enjoyed it, and then I was like, hey, we should just read a sci-fi book every month, and then that's what we've been doing ever since. So yeah, I will always have a special place in my heart for J.S. Dews, even though the third book in the Divide series was kind of disappointing. I really enjoyed Rubicon. Anyway, yeah, so that was my second favourite book of 2024, was Rubicon. And then, drum roll please. But my favourite book of 2024 by a mile was a little book called Death's End by Xinshu Liu. I think that's the right pronunciation. It's been a while since I've had to say his name, but Xinshu Liu is a Chinese author, and this is the third book in the Three Body Problem series, which you might know from the Netflix adaptation. But basically this follows kind of first contact between Earth and another civilization. It ponders a lot of kind of hypothetical scenarios that are in science and brings them into reality within the series. There's a lot of kind of ideas around the Dark Forest theory, which is actually the title of the second book. And yeah, it's it's actually a hard sci-fi. That's what the genre is called, apparently. And yeah, I know why, because it is so thick and it is so kind of tough and meaty and so much happens, and I really enjoyed myself. The first book was not particularly one that I enjoyed or will go back to, but the Dark Forest and Death's End I fucking love. Like, they were so fucking good. I've never been blown away by a book this big for a very long time, and yeah, this was just a masterpiece. Like, I love this. Xinshu Liu did such a brilliant job. Oh, and the translator of this is Ken Liu is the translator. He did a really good job. Can't speak now. He did a really good job translating this. And I'm so glad that he did, because that brought this masterpiece to me. And yeah, this is another one where I haven't watched the adaptation just because I've read the books and I really respect the books. So I don't really want to see someone else's vision of the books, especially because I tried to start the thing. I watched the first episode and it was so freaking boring, and I really don't like that they split the one main character into 6 different people and like only one of them was actually Chinese. Okay. But yeah, anyway, talking about Death's End, this is my favourite book because it was so expansive, it was so fun, so much happened in this book, and my kind of overall description of this book is that Xinshu Liu didn't know which kind of ending to choose for his series, so he just wrote all of them, because literally there were so many points within this book where you're like, how is this not the ending? Like, where are we going to go from here? Like, that was a point of contention, like, multiple times through the book, was like, where are we going to go next? Because we've already done this massive thing now, and now we're going to do another massive thing. It was so good, and I could gush about this for so long, and I already did, because I have an hour-long video about this series on my channel, so feel free to go watch that. I don't know how well I talk about it, but that's where I talk more in depth about the plot, so definitely check that out. But yeah, this is my favourite book of the year, favourite book of 2024, Death's End. It combined my love for translated fiction with my growing love for sci-fi, which I'm going to continue to read in 2025 and really dig my teeth into that genre. Yeah, just perfect. But yeah, Death's End, my favourite book. Let's get into my worst books of the year now, which is always fun to talk about, but I had a lot of fun talking about my favourite books this year. But yeah, anyway, Death's End. So a little sum up was we went from Becky Chambers to Philip Reeve to Haru Iso to J.S. Dews to Xinshu Liu as my book. They're the books, my favourite books. But yeah. Okay, so on to my worst books for 2024, and now we all love a good bit of roasting, so let's try and do that here. So I'm going to start off lightly, because this 5th place was very hard to place, because it was mainly just kind of picking one of the books that I was disappointed by this year, because I didn't have enough that I hated for the entire 5 slots. So one that I was particularly disappointed by was A Tempest of Tea, which I don't have physically right now, but here it is. And now this book was by, what's the author called? I am blanking on the name. Faisal, something Faisal. Faisal? Something like that. I probably should have checked before I started filming. But Tempest of Tea is basically Six of Crows if they published the first draft of Six of Crows, that's what Tempest of Tea was. It felt like such an underdeveloped version of that story, which is very heartbreaking to say because I don't necessarily think it's fair to compare the two, but I'm going to do it anyway because it just felt that way. It felt like a less enthralling version of Leigh Bardugo's story. It was basically a heist, a magical heist with vampires, but that was very little of the actual plot. Like, it was mainly character driven, but none of the characters were particularly interesting. There was one character called Flick who I liked a little bit. The main character, Arthi, I liked aspects of her character, and I think they should have been part, like, there's like a special weapon that she has, and I feel like the origin of that weapon should have been where she started, and it shouldn't have just been a quick flashback. That should have been where we saw her character start from, getting that weapon and then becoming who she became. But it was kind of just like an aside of like, oh yeah, she did this really cool thing back in the past. There's like a reveal in the story for that, so I understand why it wasn't, but that's where we should have started, okay? But yeah, the sheer lack of interest I had in any of the characters and the sheer underwhelming plot of that story really disappointed me. So that is why it made the list over some other ones that I was disappointed by. But yeah, Tempest of Tea, I had so much hope for it, but I will not be continuing that series because, yeah, I don't really like it. It was kind of disappointed, like I just said. But yeah, that was the easiest one to talk about. That was number 5. So my fourth pick for my least favourite books of 2024 is actually a trilogy. I again don't have them physically because I unhauled them in a previous video. But they will be The Foxhole Court by Nora Savick, I think is her name. The first book is The Foxhole Court, then it's The Raven King, and then it's The King's Men. Or is it the Raven? No, it's not the Raven Boys. That's a different series. It's the Raven King. And yeah, I hated all of these books equally. I've now read Foxhole Court twice. Both times for a friend, because both my friend Alice in secondary school really loved those books, and now my best friend Andrea really loves those books. And both times I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna read it, and I'm gonna like try and be supportive and read a book that my friends loved, and both times I freaking hated them. They were terrible. Basically, I really don't recommend reading them, but basically it's like a sports, mafia, romance kind of dark book, and it's just like, just look at the trigger warnings of the book. It's like a book within itself. There's so many, and I just can't wrap my head around why people actually like them. And I know the fandom like acknowledges that the writing isn't necessarily the best, but like they're really big fans of the characters. But even then, I'm like, the characters are fucking terrible. Like, there's the little one, Andrew Mignon. He is a little psychopath, and I know that's one of the draws to his characters, but he's a maniac in a way that doesn't make sense. And like, I know he's traumatized and he has a past, but like, he is a weirdo. He's an aggressive little freak, and he drugs people without their consent, and I just didn't really understand why people like him or saw anything redeeming within him. He was just a terrible character through and through, and I'm gonna get so much hate for saying that, especially from my best friend. If you think you can hurt me, wait till my best friend sees this. But yeah, Andrea, like, what do you see in Andrew Mignard? But yeah, I just don't understand that trilogy. It's terrible. They're all just so atrociously written. The plot is atrocious. The characters are atrocious. The characters are probably the worst part because they're all just so unlikable and unrealistic. Yeah. I guess it's supposed to be a book series about broken people, but like, I think the author's broken because why did she write that? Yeah, I really hate The Foxhole Court both times I read it. And then I finally tried to push through the entire trilogy for my friend Andrea, and I hate them progressively as I went onwards. And right now I couldn't name a single thing that happened in those books because I wiped it from my memory. Like, it's kind of like a black stain in my memory of just like, I just don't want to remember that. I want to repress that series as much as I can because I never want to have to think about those characters again. But yeah, anyways, on to the third book that I hated the most in 2024. Thought was Lap Nova by Otessa Masef. The second name. This book is kind of like a historical fiction book about... See, the plot was so terrible, I don't even remember what it was trying to do. Like, it was about a boy who ends up in a cult and he's kind of like used and abused by everyone with more status than him. But I can't remember what was actually going on. There was a witch at some point, or like a witch, like just a woman that was like on the edges of society. And yeah, it was an experience. The scene that sticks out the most to me of like the reason why this grossed me out and why I really just didn't like it was the scene where this child is made to shove a grape up his ass. And then I think they throw it to one of the servants that they're always making fun of and make her eat it. And if that sounds weird to you, the rest of the book is just like that as well. Like, it's just a plague of unnecessary, grim descriptions and stupid things that happen. And I guess it's trying to match kind of the horrible histories, if you know, like those times were like horrible, dirty, gross kind of things. Everything was horrible. You actually wouldn't want to live back then, no matter how much you say you're born in the wrong decade. And I think this story was trying to reflect that kind of dark underside, that grimy horribleness of this time, like this medieval time. But like, it was just so unnecessary, and I can't for the life of me remember what the plot was. Like, I don't remember what point A and point B was at all. I'm trying my hardest to kind of remember so I can sum it up for you, but like, this book is so unmemorable other than the gross scenes. There's dead lamb on the cover, which is kind of sad. Yeah, Lap Vona. I think I said Lap Vona the original time, but Lap Vona. So yeah, Lap Vona, just unnecessarily crude with no real point of existing. It's just not that great. It's trying to be an interesting literary fiction book, / historical fiction book, but it's just not good at anything. I don't think I'll be giving Otessa any more time, because if this is one of the best that she can do, like, this is from the author of My Year in Relaxation. That makes a lot of sense, because I know a lot of people hate that book as well. Okay, yeah, definitely that we won't be giving Otessa any more time by the time she wrote that, because I know a lot of complaints about that book. A lot of people hate that book. Okay. Also, The Observer says this is disturbingly funny. Where's the funny part, Observer? Was the funny part where the child was forced to kind of shove a grape off his arse? Like, is that funny to you? What did the other person say? iNewspaper says, one of the most provocative reads of the year. Really? Really? Are you sure about that? But yeah, this is my third worst book of the year. I can't wait to get rid of this. Okay, and then my second worst book of 2024 is one that has such a beautiful cover. So I'm very disappointed that the inside of the book was not as beautiful and aesthetic as the outside. And it's also one that I bought when I went to Japan, and that just feels like I wasted precious cargo in Japan. I could have bought another book. But that was Diary of a Bookseller by Sean Blythe. Now, I feel like I've bitched about him before in a previous video, but this man is such an asshole. Like, he makes selling and being in the book community sound so benign and horrible. He's constantly judging other people and being so condescending and rude, and he just makes books sound so depressing. And yeah, he is a sad little man. And basically this is, I think, a non-fiction book about him, the author actually himself, running a bookshop. This book, yeah, I just really hated it. It made me so disappointed, because this could have been so interesting and very valuable tool for anyone wanting to be in the book community and probably perhaps go open a bookstore. I'm very sure everyone dreams of having a bookstore with a little coffee shop in the background selling hand-knitted crafts. We all have the same idea, guys, okay? But yeah, it's just so kind of, I guess you could say, oh, it's the harsh reality, but does it have to be told by the eyes of an asshole? Yeah, I didn't like this. It was dreary, it was dull. so was the book that he wrote. But yeah, but anyway, we can appreciate the cover for now. Look how pretty the cover is. It's like bookshelves and there's a cat on the top. Yeah, I appreciate the cover artist. Let's talk about that. It says the design is by Peter Dyer and the illustration is by Bill Bragg. So shout out to those two people. They made the book seem more lovable than it actually is. But yeah, I just put this as my second worst book of the year because the disappointment by it and like the sheer anger I felt when it just continued. Like I thought maybe, okay, it's gonna start off bad and he's gonna be like depressed and he's gonna think, oh, I kind of chosen the wrong dream, this isn't what I thought it would be, I've had delusions, but then it would get better as he interacted more and more with the book community. I know that's kind of an idealistic way of looking at the world, but that's honestly what I thought it was going to be. But no, there's just a flat line of just like, this is life and it's terrible. And I'm like, but it doesn't have to be. If you were just like nicer to people, I'm sure you would have a lot better time. But yeah, I put this as second because it was just so dreary, so disappointing, and it had so much potential to be interesting. And he doesn't even really give any insightful kind of explorations of like being a bookseller. He just kind of talks about his everyday of like, I made £10 a day, I told a man to fuck off because he tried to give me a box of books. Like, it's kind of the basic stuff. So there's no kind of introspection onto kind of ideas of book selling and passing on stories to different generations, or the words of these books being particularly interesting at all. But yeah, waste of time, do not recommend. Please don't ever bring this book up to me in real life because I will punch you in the face. Okay, bye. Okay, and then the final drum roll of today's video. I don't know if I'm actually going to put a drum roll sound effect in this, so I probably just made myself look like an idiot, but my worst book of 2024 was a little book called Kafka on the Shore by Murakami. Now, this is going to be an unpopular kind of take because I know Murakami is a particularly well-known Japanese author. He's very popular, and to be honest, it's kind of sad to be put in a translated Japanese fiction book this low on my ranking, like the #1 worst book of the year. Like normally I have them as my best books, which a little side tangent, I normally have like a Before the Coffee Gets Cold book on my best books of the year video, but I didn't actually read any this year. That's why they've not appeared. It's not because I didn't like them as much this year, it's because I haven't actually read one. I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna read 2 in 2025 and make up for it. But anyway, back to Murakami. You have disgraced me. How dare you make me put a translated Japanese fiction book on my worst books of the year? How dare you? So this book follows basically 2 different people. There's a young boy who's run away from home and is trying to find a new life out there because he has a situation with his dad. And then there's another character who is kind of a old man who never really learned to read or write because of an incident in his past, which is shown at the start of the book, which is basically where a teacher takes a class of school children up a mountain and then something weird happens. All the children faint for like an undiscernible amount of time and it's never explained, and it like everyone else woke up fine, but this one kid woke up and had like lost all his memories and stuff, and that was eventually this old man. And he did, however, gain the ability to speak to cats, or at least understand cats, which is fucking cool. Like, what a lucky ass man. Like, this book should have been about him more. But yeah, that's kind of a hint of my issue with this book, was the other kind of story side with the boy who ran away from home, because I am so concerned for Murakami. Like, I've said it so many times within these videos when I've talked about this book, is like, this man needs his browser history checked, because the amount of underage stuff that he includes in this book makes you so uncomfortable. And like, I was too far in to not finish this book. Like, I had to at least finish one Murakami book so that I could unhaul the others, and I was enjoying The Man That Could Talk to Cats too much. But yeah, that whole thing with Kafka, who is the boy, was so gross. There's a scene where, so bear in mind, Kafka is at this point I think 15, 16 years old, and he ends up sleeping with a 50-year-old woman while she is asleep. And it's not even like written to be like a bad thing. Like, it felt like it was very much like glorifying this whole kind of situation with Kafka, with being with all these different women, and like being so mature. Like, he's growing up so fast, he's gone away from home and he's started his own life. He's a lost little boy, but he's doing all these grown-up things, and that's how I took it anyway. But like, it was just so gross and so weird, and that's not even the only occasion. It happened so many different times of like these so grown-up adult things that this child was doing, and yeah, it was just I can't even like look at the camera because I just felt so uncomfortable, and I hate having to hold up this book. I really just want people to stay away from this book, because although the old man was very interesting, the old man, I feel like there's loads of headspace, sorry. The old man was very interesting, and if the book was purely about him and him talking to cats, because he does this kind of thing where he like rescues cats, and there is a very disturbing thing in this book in regards to him, not like in the same way as Kafka, but there's a bit where, see, I don't want to spoil it, but like there's like some bad things that happen to cats that is very traumatic if you're a cat lover. So even if you want to see an old man that can talk to cats, maybe don't read this one, because like you'll be very upset by something that happens in his storyline. It happens like not even that far in. It happens like there, and it's very sad. It's so sad, but yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. Let's just yeah. Anyway. That's a little hint for people that have read this book to what I'm alluding to. But yeah, his storyline was at least interesting. It kind of lost me towards the end. I kind of started to lose interest after kind of that point, because that was felt like the kind of climax of that. I'm kind of losing what to say, because I obviously don't want to spoil anything, but also I hate this book, so like I don't want you to read it anyway. But yeah, the amount of like underage stuff and like yeah, and obviously the writing as well was kind of benign at times. It was very boring. Not a lot happened in terms of Kafka's storyline. With the old man, I did really enjoy hearing the cats talk, and there was a particular like magic talking cat that appeared to him that was very interesting as well. But ultimately his storyline just went as like dead in the water as Kafka's as well, because once we got past kind of the big kind of like section, not a lot happens with him. But yeah, the amount of people that have like bigged up Murakami and like praising Murakami as like this huge Japanese name, this huge Japanese author who's like so infamous and has so many books and he's so popular and he's like a bestseller. And then I read this one. This is my second one. I've read Sputnik Sweetheart for uni, so I don't really count that, and that was like okay. But like this was my first proper forte into his extended work as well, and it was just so disappointing, and I don't see the appeal. But yeah, I've had enough bitching today. I'm gonna leave it there. But yeah, this book was just so gross, and yeah, it's so icky. Please do not read this book. Keep your sanity. Go read this one instead. In Memoriam, it's just the closest one to me. Go read this. Ignore this. It's terrible. Yeah. There we go. That's my worst and best 5 books of 2024. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's a little shorter than my previous couple videos. And yeah, I always really enjoy talking to you and sharing my thoughts. So let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these books and your thoughts on them down below. Specifically like my favourite books, I'd really enjoy talking about those and seeing other people that have enjoyed them. But also if you want to bitch about some of the books that I held up for my worst books, even if they're ones that I liked and you didn't agree, let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like, comment and subscribe, share this video with your friends. I'd really appreciate any support that you show. Let me know if you have Bookstagram as well, or BookTube, let me know. Yeah, let's connect. All my social medias are in the description below. I put a couple other videos you might want to check out in the description as well. Yeah, they're my best books and my worst books of the year. I really hope you enjoyed. I'll see you when we do this again in 2026, but for 2025, because we all know I'm late to the party all the time. Yeah, happy February. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.